everyone I knew lived in the dust. They spent their lives looking down at the cracked, bone-dry earth, praying for a single drop of moisture that never came. In my world, clouds weren't just weather. They were ghosts, fleeting, beautiful myths that drifted far above our heads, taunting us. The elders told me that the sky had forgotten us. They said that trying to reach it was a fool's errand, an act of madness that would only leave you buried in the sand. But I couldn't look down anymore. My grandfather had left me his wind net, a beautiful, ancient staff woven from silver fibers, now frayed and torn at the edges. It was a relic of a time when the sky and the earth still spoke to each other. They told me it was broken, useless junk. But as I looked up at the towering, jagged peak of the Sky Spire mountain, I realized something. The sky hadn't forgotten us. We had just stopped trying to climb. The first day of the climb was silent. The desert heat radiated off the rocks, baking my skin. But with every meter I ascended, the air began to thin, turning crisp and cold. I gripped the wooden staff of the net, my knuckles white. I could hear the whispers of my village echoing in my mind, a chorus of doubts telling me to turn back, to accept the dust, to just be realistic. By the third day, the mountain showed its true face. The path vanished, replaced by sheer, vertical cliffs of black ice. The wind wasn't just blowing, it was screaming, a physical force slamming against my chest, trying to hurl me back down to the desert floor. And then it happened. A sudden, violent gust caught the silk of my grandfather's net. I heard a sickening rip. I threw myself against the rock face, trembling, pulling the net to my chest. The central weave had completely torn open. A massive, gaping hole stared back at me. It was over. The doubts had won. How could a girl with a broken net catch a storm? I sat there on a freezing, isolated ledge, the absolute blackness of the abyss yawning below me, tears freezing on my cheeks. I was a failure. The elders were right. But as I looked at the tear, I realized that crying wouldn't mend it, and turning back now meant dying in the dust anyway. If the mountain was going to change the rules of the game, I had to change how I played. I unzipped my heavy coat. I reached for the thick, colorful threads of the traditional tunic my mother had woven for me, threads meant to last a lifetime. With frozen, clumsy fingers, I began to unravel my own clothing. One by one, I pulled out vibrant red and deep blue threads of wool. I sat on that freezing ledge, in the howling dark, and I began to weave. I didn't know how to repair an ancient wind net. I just knew how to make a knot. So I made one, then another. I wove my own warmth, my own protection, directly into the silver tears of the net. Every day after that became a cycle of survival and adaptation. The mountain threw everything it had at me. Avalanches of shale shattered my footing. Freezing fog blinded my eyes. And every time the wind tore a new hole in my net, I stopped, I unraveled a bit more of my own clothes, and I patched it up. The net was no longer just an artifact of the past. It was becoming a tapestry of my scars. It was becoming me. It was ugly, mismatched, and heavy, but it was whole. I wasn't the same girl who left the village. I was leaner, harder, and my mind was as sharp as the flint beneath my boots. I stopped asking the mountain to be kind. I just asked my hands to hold on for one more footstep. On the seventh dawn, I broke through the ceiling of the world. The clouds were no longer above me. I was standing in the middle of them. A coliseum of rolling, bruised purple and electric blue fog, crackling with raw, untapped energy. The air tasted like ozone and electric static. And there, Floating in the center of the vortex was the heart of the storm, a swirling sphere of pure, luminous rain energy. I raised the net. My body was bruised, my clothes were tattered and fraying, and my hands were bleeding. The wind roared, a final, desperate attempt by the mountain to break my spirit. "You cannot contain me," the storm seemed to scream. I plant my feet. I looked down at the net. It was covered in hundreds of my own colorful, unraveled knots. And in that moment, the truth hit me like a lightning bolt. My grandfather didn't build this net to trap the sky. You cannot cage a storm. You cannot force the world to bend to your will. The net wasn't a cage. It was a sail. It wasn't meant to hold the cloud. It was meant to guide it. I didn't scoop the storm into the net. I caught the wind, angling the frayed, heavily patched silk at a precise 3-degree tilt. I let the immense power of the storm catch the net, pulling my arms forward, nearly tearing them from their sockets. But I didn't let go. I leaned back, using my weight, using every ounce of self-belief I had forged on the climb, and I began to turn the storm. I guided it. I ran down the mountain pass I had carved, the massive, thundering cloud trailing behind me like a loyal, roaring dragon of rain anchored to my tattered staff. When I reached the foothills, the villagers looked up in terror and awe. The dust was swept away by a cool, roaring gale, and then the sky opened. The first drop of rain hit the dry earth, sizzling against the heat, followed by a torrent of life-giving water. People fell to their knees, laughing, crying, washing the dust from their faces. They looked at me, standing there with a staff wrapped in colorful, ruined threads, and they called it a miracle. But it wasn't a miracle. Adverse conditions are never a sign to stop. They are simply a prompt to adapt. The tools you have right now, even if they are broken, even if they are frayed, even if people tell you they are useless, are enough if you have the courage to keep repairing them along the way. Stop waiting for the perfect weather to start your journey. Climb the mountain, face the storm, and if your net breaks, unravel a piece of yourself, fix the tear, and keep moving. Because the sky isn't ignoring you. It's just waiting for you to find the strength to pull it down. Every